So The
Yeah.
Matrix is a documentary. It's not a film. When we're in fear, pain, or suffering, it's feeding the machine. It's feeding the pharmaceutical industry, who can make zillions of dollars out of giving you drugs to try to make you feel better. It's controlling the therapy situation. And it's been discovered that about 5% of therapy is actually successful, and it's usually people that did other things. And it keeps fueling the fear, pain, and suffering. You know, there are narcissistic people out there. They're all so scary and big. But what happens with Wetiko is victims become pretty much unrecognizable as different from narcissists when they're infected with the virus of, you made this happen to me. It's everybody else's fault, and hurt people, and they become narcissistic in their approach because they haven't woken up to the truth.
Imagine a mind virus that grows through denial. It grows through being politically correct, sweeping things under the rug, and unspoken truths. The less you talk about it, are aware of it, or shine a light on it, the more it feeds. It is counting on you, watching atrocities happen, and saying nothing, as not to ruffle feathers. It's been called Wetiko by the indigenous, and you can see how it's gotten pretty huge in our current society. You can also see why I decided to name this show Face Your Shit, Heal Yourself, as all healing begins with being authentic and telling the truth. Our freedom and our sovereignty are not given. They are discovered and claimed within yourself. You stand for them, or they are stepped on by others. Today, we are continuing the conversation on the number one thing that I did to heal from endometriosis. It took my money to another level, took my energy to another level. It was literally like the missing piece to so many things in my life, and it was the catalyst for creating this show. It's called the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, also called NARP, created by Melanie Tanya Evans. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I did to heal. And this is so beyond just healing from narcissists. It truly is setting yourself free by facing your shit and healing yourself. If you'd like to hear more about this and shake the mind virus, this episode is for you. Before we dive in, thank you for having the bravery to face your shit and heal yourself by listening to this show. Because we are talking about very real shit on this show, its exposure and its reach are being limited and censored. So thank you for liking this video, sharing it, and subscribing on YouTube to my channel to help me break the algorithm and help others heal themselves. Facing your shit and healing yourself is a movement, and you can join this movement with a one-off donation or become a member for as low as $5 a month and receive exclusive art pieces, be featured on the show, submit questions for guests, and more. So who am I and why did I decide to create this show? Good question. After unraveling all of the medical and pharmaceutical lies I had been told about my endometriosis, I educated myself and I was able to heal myself after 17 years of debilitating pain. My experience inspired me to actually live my art, so I created an ongoing art series about it called Every Phase, where I illustrate how I healed myself as I live by the phases of the female hormonal cycle. The artwork shows what's happening in the brain as well as in the body during each phase and reveals how to biohack and leverage this energy in your life. I am actually living the art, so it's about way more than just healing. The writing and the artwork discuss truth, freedom, our current financial and healthcare system slavery, as well as a way out of it. Learn more by subscribing on my website, meredithochoa.com, where you can check out also my $50 limited edition bite-size acrylic art block pieces capturing all of the images from the Every Phase series. And you can also pick up a personally signed copy of my award-winning augmented reality interactive book, Face Your Shit, Heal Yourself. So all of that to say, even though I was lied to for years by doctors promoting Big Pharma, I was able to find experts who helped me achieve what I thought was impossible. This show introduces those people and practices to you. Today, we are chatting with healer, author, and radio host Melanie Tanya Evans. Melanie is considered to be the world's leading online authority on narcissistic abuse recovery. She is the founder of Quanta Freedom Healing and the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program. Melanie has endured narcissistic abuse in 2 intimate relationships that nearly cost her her life. For over a decade, she's helped over 80,000 people in 150 different countries around the world break free from intimate partner, family, friend, and coworker toxic relationships to heal completely and not just survive, but thrive. You're in the future. You're in Wednesday,
I
right?
know. I know. I'm in Wednesday. You're in Tuesday night. It's crazy, isn't it?
I think it's awesome. How's Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday's pretty good so far. It's doing all
Oh, yeah.
right. It's all right. So
It's a hump day.
it is a hump day. Look, all day. You know how it is with what we do. Every day is the same, really.
That's true, unless we make it different.
Correct. Exactly. Unless we say, this is my time off, this is my weekend. I know. But yeah,
Yeah,
especially in here dealing with a lot of the states, like a lot of stuff I have to do is really early in the morning. So when I hold classes and stuff, sometimes I've got to get up at 5 a.m. or even earlier just to make it a palatable time for everybody. It's hard.
wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome, though, that you really honor that for the US people. But still,
Mm.
I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even really think about that." I didn't
Yeah.
actually realize you had stayed in Australia with all the craziness that happened. I thought you had took refuge somewhere, but before our
Oh my,
conversation,
well, we
yeah.
couldn't get out. We were locked in. We could not leave the country anywhere. So yeah, well, I did. I went up north and got refuge there, but we couldn't until we were 2 years where I was in Melbourne. We were locked in Melbourne for 2 years. Like you literally could not get out.
Like a jail.
It was a jail. It was an open air jail. It totally was. Yeah. It was horrific. It was, you're allowed to leave your house for an hour a day.
What? It wasn't
Yes.
wait, I
And
just miss it. It's just
an
crazy,
hour a
60
day.
minutes.
You weren't allowed to leave your house except for an hour a day. That was it.
I think they got that from the prison system,
Oh,
actually,
it
'cause
was and if anybody thinks Australia, the land of free, yeah, it was a big shock too. But so many people just rolled over Meredith and just went, yeah, okay, whatever. I'm just going to do that. They just acquiesced. It was insane and even fought for it and attacked. Like they turned everybody on us. We were told the whole country was, well, our state was told anybody leaves their house and you see them, dob them in and this is the number to ring. And it was insane. It was insane. Yeah.
yeah. Which we're
Yeah.
totally gonna chat about that.
I
That
know. I'm excited
when
about
we
that. It's really good.
I've already been on the list, like, I'm freaking proud. Listen, I'm proud. If you're not on the list, if
Yeah,
you're not on the
exactly.
shadow ban list, you're not
You're not
you're not
doing a good
saying
job.
anything. Like, you're saying
Exactly.
if everyone loves you and everyone's all the time happy, then you have no point of view.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Totally.
yeah,
It's people pleasing and people do it in
yeah,
relationships too. I'm just going to
yeah,
be popular and have a whole heap of friends because I'll just tell them whatever they bloody want to hear. So inauthentic.
yeah, yeah. And everyone misses out on who you miss out on you, and everyone else misses out on you.
It's
The
so
world misses
true.
out.
It's so true. It's so, so true.
Well, speaking of
Yeah.
people pleasing, being on lists, shadow banning, what
Yeah.
motivated you to really face your shit, leading you to just the incredible work you do today?
Well, I kind of fell into it. It wasn't what I ever planned that would happen. It definitely chose me. And it was through narcissistic abuse. So it was so about marrying who I thought was the perfect guy that my whole life, Meredith, that I'd wanted to manifest and had a lot of painful relationships, done a heap of inner work, or so I thought. And then this guy comes into my life who's spiritual and he's charming and he ticks all of the boxes. And before I knew it, within 4 months, I was 30 odd and I married him. But then I'd always just believed that narcissists were somebody who were arrogant and full of themselves. I had no idea about the personality disorder. So this person was intensely jealous. They could never be appeased or reassured. He would come out with things that shocked me and they weren't a joke. And
Mm.
then I really discovered the control, but he faked a cancer condition that he had a stage 4 melanoma and it wasn't true. And that was his excuse for his jealous outbursts and his insane behavior was, well, I could be dying. And of course, that got my attention fully on him. And then I wouldn't leave the house and I was always looking after him. And it turned out to be a complete hoax and he'd falsified records and done all sorts of things. But there was so much more to it. And it ended up being physical abuse and sexual abuse, as well as mental and emotional abuse.
Mhm.
And yet it shocked me. I was still in love with him and still trauma bonded to him. And I'd never believed in my life that I would be that person because I looked at other people and I thought, what are you doing? Just leave. So this really, and I thought I was losing my mind and I was. And anyway, I ended up having to run and get away. And then either he'd hoover me back in with all the false promises, or I was just dying. I felt like I was missing my soulmate so much. I'd go back, come up with all these excuses why I could fix this. And then eventually things got so bad, I ended up seeing a personality disorder specialist. And he went as well. And he got, well, quote unquote, diagnosed and he left. I was still the in and out dance. And she told me either one day he's going to kill you because it was violent. You're going to kill him in reactive abuse because of fighting back. You're going to end up contracting a terminal disease or something really serious because you are so sick and stressed and skinny and unwell, or you're going to have a complete psychotic breakdown. And that's exactly what happened. I did have a complete psychotic breakdown. And when it happened, I was looking at myself from the ceiling one day at a workshop that I was catering for. And I was like, wow. I went to my car, I came back into my body, psychotic episodes that wouldn't stop. I got rushed to
Mhm.
hospital. I got diagnosed with a complete psychotic adrenal breakdown, told I would never recover, that I'd need 3 antipsychotics for the rest of my life to function, but I'd never be normal again. And then I'd already lost everything. I'd lost all my money. I'd lost everybody in my life had been smeared against me. I'd lost my son. I'd lost my business. I'd lost everything. And I'd lost him. And now I'd lost my health. So I'm 40 years of age and I thought there's no comeback. I wanted to exit the planet, Meredith. So I started working out how to do that in the kindest way possible to everybody. And while I'm doing this, a voice in my head started screeching at me, no, there's another way. I think it was my madness talking. So I've
Mhm.
crawled into the bathroom, hit the floor, and just screamed. And I remember it vividly. I just hit the floor, put my hands up, and screamed, help me. I just can't do this anymore. And then I had this incredible spiritual experience of an epiphany where it was like my head opened, everything that I believed got sucked out, a new awareness came in, and this download was so instant and powerful. And what it was is it's not about him. He's a catalyst set up on a soul contract to smash you to your knees for you to understand the parts of you that have been unhealed. So, for example, you conditionally love yourself. So therefore, whatever you do for him is never good enough. The fact that he screams at you, you're all of these kinds of things, and I'm screaming at him, you don't even know who I am. Did I know who I was? had I spent time alone, deeply self-partnering and understanding and nurturing and healing myself from the inside? No. I'd done it all through concept and reading and what the outer world told me to do. And on and on and on this went, the ways that I didn't speak up, that I people pleased because I didn't want to risk criticism, rejection, abandonment, or punishment, which I'd done my whole life. He was just making it 1,000 times worse. So the voice said to me, this was never about him. This is about reflecting back to what you need to heal within you. And then I got catapulted into this lifelike future self that I felt and experienced somatically, where I was healed and whole and I was free. And I'd never felt those feelings before, Meredith. And the voice said to me, this is you in the future if you choose to heal this from the inside out. And then I got thrown back into my emaciated, shaking, terrorized, traumatized being. And the voice said, it's your choice. You can choose the mission or you can exit. It's your choice. And I chose the mission. So I didn't know at that stage how I was going to heal. I certainly wasn't healed, but I knew it was possible because I'd just experienced it. And all of this was crystal clear to me. So from that epiphany, I went total no contact with him. I completely made it about myself. And I was guided every step of the way about how to turn this into an inside journey. So I looked at inside healing modalities like EFT, body code, EMDR, theta healing, so on and so forth. And I started training in a lot of them and kinesiology and became my own self practitioner and got certified. And what was happening was the trauma was leaving and I was coming back into my body. But there was a piece I couldn't conquer, which was agoraphobia, fear of open spaces, because he was very violent and dangerous and threatening. And I was still in safe spaces. I was great, but anywhere new or outside my front door, I wasn't. And I tried everything. I tried every healer who could have the answer. I forget therapy because I knew that the thinking, talking, researching wasn't going to change me on the inside. So I went down all of those tracks and I tried to heal myself with my tools that had pretty much healed everything else. And I couldn't. And then anyway, I ended up synchronistically, knew I needed to go to Thailand. Huge trauma to do that with agoraphobia traveling alone. But anyway, I'm in my hotel room and I want to be in Koh Samui playing. Can't because of agoraphobia. And I just set the intention, I'm going to find the answer. And I knew quantum laws, so within, so without. If I could find the causation traumas within me and I could let them go and replace them with source light, my true higher self, that I could instantly be free. I knew I'd done it before. So I've set the intention, I've opened my heart and my mind, and I start taking dictation from my channel. As I'm writing it, it's things I know, it's things I don't know, but yet I do know them. And a combination that just excited me so much because I knew it was going to work. So after I was done, I sat down and I worked on myself for 2 hours. And I then walked out the front gates of the resort, out into the main street in Koh Samui, which is crazy, playing, extended, safe, connected to everything in oneness. And the agoraphobia never came back. And then I went back to Melbourne, like more free than I've ever been in my whole life. And I said to my clients who I was working on with my other tools, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to do quantum freedom healing, which is what I was told to call it. And they too, their persistent deep stuff started just snapping off. And then what happened was a lot of them were in domestic violence counseling as well, and other bits and pieces with psychologists and psychiatrists. Their therapists started ringing me up and wanted my number or emailing, and they're like, what happened to my client or my patient? Because they walked in here a completely different person. What did you do? So then they came for quantum freedom healing, because as we know, a lot of therapists have got their own trauma. That's why they do what they do. And word of mouth exploded. And I had a waiting list months in the future, which I couldn't cater to. And then the voice said to me, you need to create a program so that you don't have to do this one-on-one because more people need this. So I created the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, the NARP program, which has all the quantum freedom healings in it. I was told it would work. I'm like, how's this going to work from recordings? And the voice said, put the energy codes and the intentions in there. It will work. So I gave it to my clients and I said, go do this in your own time at home. They're accelerating and they're healing so much because it was more than once a week with me. And then the rest is history. There's now been 80,000 graduates from the NARP program in 150 different countries. And that was since 2007. So that's the story.
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for choosing the path that you chose
Thank
because
goodness.
thank God. Thank God because
What?
it changed my life. I cannot even tell you how, and
Oh,
we're going to talk about that, but it's just, wow, incredible. Absolutely. And there's so many, your journey, there's so many things that you were saying that in my own healing journey, I definitely, there's so many similarities there in connecting with a higher consciousness, with creator,
mhm,
with source, with the
mm,
oneness of all things.
mm,
And thank God, pun intended.
absolutely. It's totally unintended. And that
Yeah.
law of one was something that I didn't realize, I didn't embody. No spiritual teacher would kind of taken me there. But this whole journey, well, it started with that epiphany,
Yeah.
seeing that quantum field and the oneness of it all. And yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. There's nothing that can defeat you when you realize and you understand that you are everything. There is nothing bigger than you. It
That's right.
is you you
That's right.
cannot lose anything because it is that all-encompassing infinite integration.
Yes.
Nothing can beat that. And that's why I truly believe they will always fail because they're banking on separateness, which that's not how it works. It never has, it never will. They are part of it. Which I know there's a lot of info right now out there on
Mm,
narcissism. This is what you do with quantum freedom healing. It's just
mm,
it is a whole other spiritual level. And the
yes.
way that you talk about the roots, the quantum roots of this. And I remember you mentioning Wetiko, the psychic
Yeah.
virus.
Mm,
This could be literally a whole other episode, but I wanted to touch on it. And I do plan for it to be because
I hope so.
it's so powerful that we understand as a
Yeah.
collective
Yeah.
how it's not just in our individual stories of how narcissists really were our kind of emotional boot camp, but it's actually a psychic virus that many are unaware of that we're born into. Could you share a little bit about how this impacts us as a collective spiritually?
So true. And Wetiko, which I did talk about years ago, and it really, Paul Levy, it's a book everybody should read. It's
Mhm.
such an important book. But what it does talk about is that, well, the ego, and Wayne Dwyer said, edging God out, ego is the part of us that's attached to a personality and identity who doesn't know who we really are. And who we are is, as you said, Meredith, all of it. We are a fractal made in the image and likeness of God's source creation, prime creator, and the field, and all of it at a true energetic vibrational level. Now, what the problem is, we've been programmed, everything's been flipped upside down by a programming that has wanted to keep us separated from our true power. So the programming has been, well, if you think you're all that is, it's hubris, it's egotistical, it's narcissistic. And yet, the belief that we're just a personality and an identity, that is ego and that's hubris because you always feel empty. You always feel like you're serving the small self. So you have to pitch yourself against others to get your share of the goods in order to try to feel at peace within. And it was like George Caitlin said, it's like taping sandwiches on your jumper, your sweater, and pretending you've had lunch. It just will never work. So we've all been programmed into this is the whole separation consciousness of Wetiko. Don't believe that you and Prime Creator are one. Believe you're separated. Believe that now that you're out on your own, you're not loved, you're not accepted, you're actually a dirty, sinful person who is really wrong and evil, even. And now you've got to try and suck up and you've got to appease and you've got to earn your worth. And everybody is inflicted with that in separation consciousness. Now, how Wetiko happens, that the narcissism is I'm separated, I don't have my stuff, I need to do whatever it takes to get it. So we could even argue, obviously, narcissists pathologically lie, they manipulate, they gaslight, they do the most heinous things because that's the only way they know how to survive in separation consciousness. And the bottom line is they feel so empty, unloved, and unworthy and disconnected on the inside. Whatever it takes to get the stuff to make me feel better is what I'm going to do. Now, codependence, which is us, we have a conscience, don't want to hurt people. We probably can't live with ourselves if we do the wrong thing, but we're still suffering the separation emptiness, which means that because we don't know that we are at peace and whole and all that is, and we can't be flourished and nourished by the field as ourselves, we end up assigning outer forces as our source of self, which is always going to be a false source. And ironically, we attach onto narcissistic people because narcissistic people who don't want a connection to true source, it's actually a dark satanic agenda that's underneath all of this. When you understand that, it changes a lot. And the satanic agenda is I'm anti-God, I'm anti-source, I'm anti the field. I want to be God. So therefore, I'm not going to connect or merge with a higher power. I'm the higher power. So a narcissist does that. That's why they act like king gods out there with their excessive entitlement, with the disdain, with the devaluing, with all the things they do. We know what they do. And a codependent doesn't do that, but they've still been separated from true source. So what happens with a codependent is we start worshiping outer sources and we hand all our power to them. Because rather than say, well, I'm the God King who's going to manipulate, lie, and abuse, I need you to give me myself. And that is the perfect match for a narcissist. Because you're just going to acquiesce, give them everything. You're going to try and earn love and approval. They will come in, trauma bond with you, and they can suck your life force, your energy, your resources, your sexuality, loosh. Also, your pain and fear gives them so much significance. So they love it when you start getting traumatized because they don't, and they're vampires. They're literally energetic psychic vampires who are feeding off your innocence, your life force, your Christed self, which is you are made in the image of God Source Prime Creator. So you have that DNA inside of you, which is creation itself. They're after that. You just don't know you have it. So you keep handing it over. They actually don't have it. They've disconnected from it. They do not want it. Now, Wetiko is the amnesia. It's a psychic virus. And the big key to Wetiko, and Paul Levy nailed this, is radical personal responsibility. I am the source of my own experience. So victims of narcissists we're also programmed into the whole victim consciousness. I'm like this because of you. And it's so terrible what happened to me. So therefore, I'm going to join a victim group. I'm going to get into an abuse forum and I'm going to bang on about the narcissist, and we're going to share war stories, and we're going to see who's got the worst war story. And we're going to think that's going to heal us. It's
Mhm.
insanity. Or I'm going to get into a post-traumatic stress disorder group, and I'm going to identify that I am a post-traumatic stress disorder victim. And I'm going to keep talking about that and that. So we've been programmed by nefarious means into staying small, staying disconnected from source, identifying with our wounds and becoming our wounds, which means that we keep feeding loosh out into the system of the narcissistic parasitical entities that are literally feeding off that. So the
Yeah.
Matrix is a documentary. It's not a film. When we're in fear, pain, or suffering, it's feeding the machine. It's feeding the pharmaceutical industry, who
Mhm.
can make zillions of dollars out of giving you drugs to try to make you feel better. It's controlling the therapy situation. And it's been discovered that about 5% of therapy is actually successful. And it's usually people that did other things. And it keeps fueling the fear, pain, and suffering. There are narcissistic people out there. They're all so scary and big. But what happens with Wetiko is
Mhm.
victims become pretty much unrecognizable as different from narcissists when they're infected with the virus of, you made this happen to me. I'm a
Mhm.
victim, and I'm completely powerless. I'm completely separated from myself, a higher self, taking back my true self. I'm now stuck in my false self, suffering. It's everybody else's fault, and hurt people. And
Mhm.
they become narcissistic in their approach because they haven't woken
Yep.
up to the truth.
Yeah.
That's Wetiko.
So much you said there. And what I feel like is fascinating, the Luciferian escapist ideology, how that connects to Wetiko, because and I'm still listening to the book. I'm not even all the way through, but one of the things that really
Yep.
sat with me, being the
Yeah.
name of the show is Face Your Shit, Heal Yourself. One of the things that sat
Yeah.
with me is I find it fascinating how this kind of virus, this collective virus that we're born
Yeah.
into, it grows through
Yes.
denial. It grows the less that you talk about it, the less you point it out, the less you're aware of it. These conversations, that's what it feeds on. It feeds on being politically correct. It feeds on no one saying anything. It
Oh,
feeds
yes.
on this
Oh, yeah.
wanting to fit into these norms that it has decided, or that this kind of group has decided. And so it's that escapist, no, don't look over there because that hurts, or don't look over there because that's negative, or this voice is
Yeah.
telling me something. Don't listen to that. Just look at what's positive, or what is, you just
Oh,
smoke the
yeah.
cigarette, just eat another dessert. And it's just,
Yeah.
it really sat with me how the less we look at it, the more it grows, because it lives there. It lives in denial.
Meredith, it's so, so true. And dark forces need the shadows. They
Mhm.
need the smoke screen of deception, which is the satanic agenda, which is all of the anti-God agenda.
Mhm.
Anti-source prime creator agenda is all about, we're going to gaslight and cover it up with something and keep it away from you. And then there's a big culture in the narcissistic abuse. Don't blame and shame the victim. And we're not blaming and shaming the victim. We're giving you the tools and the understandings to take your power back, to be free from this. If we're going to enable these victim conversations and what happened to you, well, then there is no hope for your resurrection, your growth, your healing, and your thriving.
Mhm.
You, as prime creator, even if you don't know it, if you want to stay stuck in the narrative that you're being fed that feels like garbage in your body, that's exactly what your reality is, prime creator that you are. So
Yeah.
it's the hiding of the quantum truths that have done, and the programming is so horrible, and it's really
Yeah.
accelerated in the last few years since the whole,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
programming is so about, you need to claim your identity. You're a female, binary, white, da 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 da. So every time we say we're that, you get separated from the all, the oneness,
Mhm.
the truth of
Mhm.
who you are. And this is the divide and conquer garbage that goes on. Well, I'm going to declare that I'm this, and everybody has to acquiesce to that. And you have to respect my identity, and you have to give
Mhm.
me, all that stuff. So you're
Mhm.
fighting for your separation and
Yep.
your reduction of your identity, which is always going to make you feel sick and
Yep.
disconnected. And then you start hating yourself because that's what happens when you get separated from God, source, prime, creator. And then once you start hating yourself, you start hating everybody else because that's what people who hate themselves do. So therefore, you get nasty. You start labeling, you start name calling, you start believing the narrative from the insanity at the top that has taught you to be that, where you can now go to war and you can desecrate verbally other people who don't agree with your version of separation consciousness. It's insane.
Absolutely insane. We're so free that we can choose our slavery, that we can fight for. Just the fact that you can
Mm,
choose slavery, just the
yeah,
fact that you can fight literally illustrates the
yeah,
truth of how free you are and how
that's
actually
right.
no one can take that away from you except for you. No one can tell you who you are. No one can
Right.
take true freedom. It's in
Yeah.
yourself. And that is why I love your work so much because
Mm,
it is a complete illustration of that idea. And I feel like as we discuss this collective virus, one of
yeah.
the most evident manifestations of this was the unisolated virus. Starts with a C. You guys know what I'm talking about. Businesses shut down and failed. Suicides and divorces just went through the roof. You were pepper sprayed, tackled. People died. People killed themselves. All due to a marketing campaign, all due to
Mm,
false health mandates and guidelines with four, in quotes, no science behind them. In
mm,
their own words, not my
mhm.
words, but those of a
Yes.
doctor whose last name ends in "she." And you guys know who I'm talking about. So people like me and you who knew this, who see the Wetiko, who see it happening,
Mm,
censored, canceled, belittled, because we got to
mm,
have that grow in the shadows. You can't shine a light on it. Can't have even just a conversation. It's one thing to disagree. People don't even know how to let other people have differing opinions anymore.
mm,
It's amazing. But that triangulation that happens where you're now
mm,
canceled by society, which is exactly what narcissists do. That is what happens
mm.
when you're dealing with a psychopath, when you're dealing with a narcissist.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this most recent illustration viral, pun intended, marketing
Mm,
campaign?
yeah, which it was. Absolutely.
Mhm,
Well, it's fascism, it's Marxism. Like
mhm,
it's very simple. If somebody will not let you ask a question or have an opinion or seek your own answers, that is complete control and it's fascism. It's
mhm,
literally an evil indoctrination where 1984, it's very simple.
mhm.
And how this didn't raise, well, it has now, but how this didn't raise more alarm bells is horrific. A
Yeah,
lot of people, Meredith, in my community actually got it. Some didn't, but a lot did.
yeah.
And I think the reason is because they recognized when you're with a narcissistic individual, them manipulating you, mining, exploiting you for their own agendas means you can't wake up, means that you have to go along with their narrative and their plan. And what we know, what happens with a narcissistic individual, when you question,
Mhm.
they, what do? They immediately go to gaslighting. They will
Right.
shame and blame you. They'll make you doubt yourself. They will quote allies They will quote
Yeah.
sources that either don't exist or are fabricated to back up their version and discredit yours.
Right.
It's the total playbook. Now, let's have a look at a non narcissistic person, not a perfect person, because a perfect person doesn't exist. A non pathological person has nothing to hide.
Right.
And therefore, inquiry is not a problem. Not a problem at all. And in fact, they have enough of a connection to humanity or in their soul and empathy for others that they welcome people feeling at ease and people going along willingly rather than being forced. So they welcome questions, they share answers, they're transparent. It's not asking anybody to fly to the moon. It's just normal humanity. When you have any person or organization who redact information, who change the story, how many times did that story change? Oh,
It, it's just who's running, who's the new
oh,
director this week, it's all the world's a stage.
how many? And all they said was, well, the science now says, really show
Mhm.
it to me. And actually, me looking and following, ironically, the world class doctors that you've shut down, that you've censored, who are putting everything on the line, their reputation, their business, even their certifications, their right to practice, everything on the line to speak up and show their evidence. They're all censored, deplatformed, threatened. I have a medical friend who showed me in Australia what the TGA or whatever that medical board is, I can't remember, showed me the documentation they gave her about this and the medical answer to this
Mhm.
that got pushed everywhere.
Yeah.
She showed me the verbiage they were allowed, what they weren't allowed. And it was like reading something from a fascist communist country. She declined. She stepped out. She couldn't do it. Right. And their answers, if anybody wants informed consent, and how there was nothing on the labels and how they couldn't even give it, and the answers they were to give people to talk them out of in wanting informed consent, and how they were to push the dangers if they didn't. It was disgusting. So I already knew. I knew one day into it what was going on because I knew this had been coming for decades. But anyway, there's all your proof. So, but you can't speak about that. You can't bring that up. You can't do anything because I lost a whole Instagram channel of over 100,000 members just because of what I was saying on my personal Facebook channel.
Totally. And that is why we are talking about it, because all healing begins with being authentic, with being real, with telling the
Yeah.
truth.
Yes.
And it's not
Yes.
about, that's why I said that thing before. Like, people don't even, they
Yeah.
forgot how to just
Yeah.
listen and disagree. You don't have to agree, but to
No,
literally
of course not.
stamp out other people's way of dealing with this is,
Yeah. Hmm.
that's not, that is another agenda. That is something completely
Mm.
different than we're dealing with this, and this is how I'm choosing to honor my body. This is how you're choosing to honor
Yeah.
your body. Great.
Yes, exactly.
It could have been as simple as
Exactly.
that, but it was so revealing that this was never about health. It was never
No.
about
Oh gosh, no.
anything like, yeah.
No. No.
And that's,
Mm.
yeah.
Well, the whole
They
system isn't about health. The whole
right.
system isn't about
Yeah.
health, and it hasn't been forever. We just, because it doesn't treat the causes, it just
No.
treats symptoms, which creates more side effects with more symptoms. It makes you a lifelong customer.
Yes. And this show was birthed out of me healing, doing your program, doing your work, which I'd love to talk about because at this entire show, this entire conversation, of course, I did a lot of heavy lifting, just detoxing my body, of course,
Mm,
pelvic floor
mm,
physical therapy, beautiful,
mm,
wonderful doctors and
mm,
healthcare professionals that are out of the fog of the marketing campaign, actually look at the truth and basic health principles, many of them on the show. But
perfect.
your this took it to a whole other level. Narcissistic abuse recovery program, also called NARP. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I did to heal. People that ask me, we've seen this transformation. This is it. This is literally what I did to heal. And it's so much beyond just healing from narcissists. It's really just clear the shit out. Just clear the crap out. Like all
Yeah,
attachments, cords,
yeah,
all of that stuff. It took my
yeah,
money to another level, took my energy to another level. And this is
yeah.
like my own healing, my own biological healing from endometriosis, my pain and suffering, all of
Mm,
that, it just was no longer there. It was like the missing piece to
mm,
so many things in my life, and it was the catalyst again for this show. So I would love for you to
mm,
share how NARP is different, obviously, than traditional talk therapy and why it's
yeah.
so potent. Yeah.
Well, first of all, Meredith, I love hearing that. Like, I hear these stories every day and it never gets old for me because my greatest mission since my life and death recovery is to help other people get out of their trauma, those old toxic programs we've all been indoctrinated with, handing our power away and take ourselves back. So I'm so excited that you've done that and that you're on your Dharma and you're now presenting to the world and you're getting some really great speakers on and you're really getting traction. It's very exciting. I love that. And you're in the background, like, I didn't know about you. Like, so many thousands of people using NARP, some I know and plenty I don't. So I'm so happy. How does it work? Okay, well, it works off the quantum law, and quantum law is the energetic matrix that holds everything together in unity consciousness in the law of one. So, what it means is that, in simple layman terms, our inner universe is our outer universe. So, what it means is that whatever is going on in the composition of ourselves somatically, emotionally, is exactly how we feel, which comes first. Then our thinking will follow. Then our actions and what we're attracted to match the inner program. And the things and people that match the inner program are attracted to us. So, I love what the Buddha quote, if you want to know what's going on in your inner world, have a look at your outer world on any topic. It's actually that simple. So, what we're led to believe in this really disconnected, ridiculous paradigm that we've been put in is that, well, if we just fix and change out there, or take a pill or something, or learn or research something, it's going to fix in there. And do you know what? I used to think that too, even being a personal development student and a spiritual person before quantum freedom healing and NAP. I believed that too, because I didn't know another way. So, what quantum freedom healing does, which is the healing component in NAP, is it gets us below the brain into the being where the greatest amount of our consciousness is. 97% of our life by the time we're 30 is coming from our inner consciousness, our somatic emotional self. Energy in motion is emotion. And that's exactly what those heat seeking missiles are doing for everything in your life. So now you might think, whoa, I just want to think about this. It's crazy and it's so ironic because when you start working somatically, emotionally with quantum freedom healing, it takes your head out of the picture and it actually takes out any necessity for you to remember your childhood, let alone your past lifetimes, which is another story, or your
Mhm.
parallel lives or your multidimensional selves, which you are. You're much bigger than what you could ever imagine. Like, logically, you can't even tap into that stuff, right? And maybe you can't even remember what happened at 3 that was really impactful. And you certainly can't remember what happened to you when you were in the womb and your mother had a trauma and you took it on through the brain blood barrier and your DNA got activated with your amygdala and that trauma. which you carry
Mhm.
for lifetimes. Like how you can't even work that stuff out logically. When we go quantum and we use quantum freedom healing, it is so simple, it's ridiculous. All you have to do in theta brainwave with these protocols and intentions and the healings is to target the trauma creating that. Something lights up, you breathe into it, you follow the instructions, it releases your true higher self, the light comes in and resets you back to your divine state, to your true essence on that topic. And then you're just healed. That's actually how it works. So what happens is automatically you feel different. The pain, the fear, the suffering is gone on that topic. And your brain synapses have followed your body having an internal shift. So they actually go back to their divine essence state, which is the law of one. And you automatically have wisdom. You have embodied knowing. You have self love and self acceptance because when you're at one with Prime Creator, it just is. And you start showing up in life in a completely different person. So, for example, a very simple example, somebody who becomes really invested in becoming a healthy person and really embodies it, there's no way they can go and eat a greasy, disgusting hamburger anymore. Like it's just not them. So,
Yeah.
what happens is toxic people, low frequency vibrational people, rather than once they felt attractive because they matched your unhealed trauma from people in your past that were like that. That's
Mhm.
what the glue was that was so attractive. It shifted and they're just not palatable anymore. And let's say one sneaks in, because you feel whole at one, you can speak up, lay boundaries. You don't give a shit whether they criticize, reject, abandon, or try and punish you. It's like, whatever. You're not a match for me anyway. Thank you. You just showed your true colors. The trash just took itself out. Like everything changes. And because your inner frequency is now at true essence, what happens is the outer environment just starts to reflect that. You start getting opportunities that are high vibrational. You start getting miracles. You start getting synchronicities that will blow your mind. And you're the field.
Yeah.
That's how it heals.
How it heals. It's just so gorgeous. And it's something that I continue to use and practice to this day.
Same,
You have
same.
the forgiveness process on there. Just that alone is just worth going and doing NARP because it's,
Yeah.
healing. It's a journey. It's not a destination. It's a journey.
No.
It's certainly, though, when you do some of these modules, it actually changes the environment. My husband came in, I remember I had done a module and he was like, "What have you been doing in here?" And he's sensitive, he's psychic, and he was just like,
Gorgeous.
"The entire space feels different." He was like, "You're doing something." I hadn't been telling him I've been doing any of this. And it's
Yeah.
just because it's proven to you, like you were saying, the synchronicities and how it is quantum,
Mhm.
because when those cords are cut,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
other party knows. It was literally minutes within doing these modules that I would hear back from people, narcissists that had cold shouldered me, other people that
Yep.
hadn't spoken to me in months, because that supply is
Totally.
no longer there. And it's proof to me that I'm really free. Yeah. Yeah.
Correct. And that story happens all the time. And I can't tell you the amount of times, and I've seen it in my own life, is when you let go of that pain and that suffering on a certain person, and the NAP modules do it really effectively. When you do that and the light comes in and that cord is gone, it's done. So often I would be with a client in a healing and they go, "Oh my God, my phone just went off. I haven't heard from that person for 15 years." Because they feel, and it's probably subconscious, who cares? But they
Mhm.
feel the energy drop and the lack of supply, and they try to rehook it. And of course, you're beyond it now. It's like, whatever, you're not even, but that's the scary, spooky, creepy things about narcissists. And it's so true. Most of them will have multiple victims that they're feeding off through energetic cords like a psychic vampire. even decades after seeing this person, because that person never detoxed them. And that's why people in standard traditional recovery, and they're told this, you're never going to be the same if your breakdown's been massive. You may never rebuild your life. And people have even been told things in abuse forums like the best you can do now is warn people. And they think they're doing a service, but they're just putting out there so much about narcissists. They're just fueling it all.
Wow.
Wouldn't it be?
Solution.
Yes, they're fueling it. It's Wetiko. They're feeding the beast exactly
Mhm.
what the beast wants, significance. It makes narcissism bigger in the world by doing that. And the thing is, you can't warn anybody about a narcissist anyway, because narcissists don't come into your life wearing a t-shirt, I'm a narcissist. They come in as the most affable, charming, decent person who's genuinely interested in you, who is kind, who is caring. Knowing about narcissists does not protect you from narcissists. Knowing yourself protects you. That you're not
Yes.
needy, you're not empty, you're not going to jump in a bed, you're not going to jump into a business deal, you're not going to invite them into your home and your heart and your bed and your life and your money sources because they give you a buzz. That's what we used to do. I did it. But when we heal ourselves, we become a rational adult in our body and we go, I already feel whole and connected anyway. So I don't need an outer false source. And to get to know somebody takes time. I want to know who you
Yeah.
are before I let you into my inner sanctum. And no narcissist will get through that because they're a predator that's got a hit and take you down very quickly to get a feed because they have no energy source of themselves.
Mhm.
And if you're not prey, if you're not an injured gazelle at the edge of the pack and you're a strong big bison, they're not even going to bother. Or they're going to give it a crack and try some boundaries. Well, I want to see you
Mhm.
tonight. Well, I can't actually. I'm seeing a girlfriend for a movie. I can't. Oh, so they freak
Mhm.
because you're meant to drop everything and acquiesce to them straight away. And if you're needy and empty, you will because, oh my God, this is my dream person, whether it be in business or a friendship or where have you been all my life? You're my dream come true. That's how they get in. And when we're solid, we just don't, hey, who's this person being pushy and I only met you 2 minutes ago and you're acting like my best friend? I don't know you yet.
Yeah. Yeah. The best you can do, I can't believe some people, the best you can do is just warn it. The best you can do is set yourself free. How about that? The best you can do is do NARP.
Fully.
For real. Like
Oh
for real.
my
Set yourself free.
free and
Yeah.
help others do the same. Inspire others to know that there is a solution for this, that you do not have to, you were not designed as your true essence to be in fear, pain, and suffering and to decline and disintegrate. That's not what God created you to do. It's not. But, we've been fed that story and it's sick. It's more sick than a narcissist, actually, that story.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's our up leveling. It's our boot camp. It's
Yeah.
what we need to grow. Our pain is really our unrecognized power, our
Yes, I love that.
unrealized. It's so true.
Uh-huh.
It certainly is true for me. Literally,
I'm gonna
my
grab that
physical
if I
pain.
can. That is such a
Grab
beautiful
it.
quote. I'm gonna
It's
grab it.
what
I love it.
grab it. It's what I feel and what I've lived too from physical
Mhm.
pain, not only physical pain, but emotional pain. But that
Mm,
pain became
mm,
my friend. That pain in me,
mm.
we that's my power now because I know because the pain, it's a messenger. It's telling you something. Just like the message, it's not this thing that is going to destroy you. It can destroy you if you let it,
Of
but it's just unrealized and it's waiting there for you to realize.
On all of that, like, pain is your what did you say? Pain is your unrecognized power.
It's your unrealized power. It's your untapped
Mhm.
power. And
Mm.
we experience it as pain, at least in
Mm.
my belief, because we don't
Yeah.
it's unrealized. We don't realize
Yeah.
what it is because we haven't uncovered and healed those parts of ourselves, that
Yeah.
generational trauma. We could do so many things on this. And just like you said, talk therapy
Mhm.
doesn't work because it could take
Mm.
lifetimes to intellectually understand all the crap
Mm.
that you are
Mm.
carrying. It could take lifetimes. So that's why you
Yes.
have to go
Mhm.
quantum. You have to tap in
Mhm.
to something,
Yes.
your
Mhm.
true intelligence, which is much bigger than just
Yeah.
Meredith Ochoa and Melanie. It's
Yes.
much bigger than that. It's all of us. And it's a
Yes.
important distinction to make in being this unity consciousness, because narcissists, like you were
Mm.
saying, I am God versus, well, yeah, and so is everyone else and everything else and it's
Yeah.
that so they
Yeah.
play on these truths and they twist it and they distort it. And then people think,
Yes.
oh, well, that's narcissistic to think that I am a child of
Yes.
God, that I'm source, that I have this
Yeah.
flowing through me. No, no, not at
Mhm.
all.
It's actually a blasphemy not to know the truth.
It is.
It actually is. But I
Yeah.
love that pain is that power because I love all the metaphors. Like our greatest gold is mined from our deepest, darkest shaft. And the pearl comes out of the gritty shell. Diamonds are born under pressure and fire. And my favorite one of all is actually behind me. I don't think you can see it in this, but it's the butterfly, which is
Yes.
coming out of the messy, dark, sticky, ugly cocoon and coming out as this magical creature.
Yeah.
We've got all of the answers everywhere around us. It's actually a law of nature that no matter what the pain that is in. And also, too, that's our survival programs. When we heal them, what gets unleashed is life force and creativity.
Yeah.
And that's why we thrive better than we ever did, even before abuse. And even if abuse is all we've ever known, when it gets cleaned out, we get unleashed into our true essence. And
Yeah.
that's why I'm always so excited about the Thriver model, because everywhere out there is just the survivor model. And
Yeah.
when I hear the word survivor, I literally feel like I want to vomit because I'm
Yeah.
like, no, that is not good enough for what we've been through. It's just not.
No, because you become galvanized. You are
Mhm.
unstoppable. When you tap in, you are unstoppable.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Narcissists, none of it. Demons, doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like, you are literally unstoppable.
Exactly.
It's
Light, the other metaphor, the other light, the metaphor of vampires, which is what you're dealing with, people that don't have a true source, energy source, that are
yeah,
parasiting off fear and pain and acquiesce. Acquiesce, like you staying with a narcissist, no matter how much you're arguing with them, is you granting permission. Like you
yeah,
offering yourself up to Baal, a dark force, literally. But
yeah,
when you take your power back and your authentic self and you stand in your light,
yeah,
what happens to vampires when a big light is shone on them? They disintegrate.
yeah,
They have no power. And we experience this in our community all the time. People who do that work, the narcissist acquiesces. Our people in our community win settlements, they win custodies, the
yeah.
narcissist falls to pieces.
Mhm.
Because when you go into a dark room and you turn on the light's all that exists.
Yep.
It's another metaphor in nature that is 100% correct.
Absolutely.
Abs-
Absolutely. And listen, it's my favorite part of the show. It is
Okay, good.
our finale, biohacking with art question. Are you ready?
Oh, yes. Of course, I'm ready for anything. Yeah,
You were
I think,
born ready. You were born ready. If
well,
you
probably not. I was reborn ready.
oh, I know. If you could describe the power of healing from narcissistic abuse with
Mm.
any art medium, how would you make it and what would you
Gosh.
choose?
Oh my gosh, because I'm not artistic at all.
It can
But
be
what I'm
anything.
actually
Anything.
okay. So what I just saw was a big building. Uh-huh. And when I'm seeing in this building, I don't know, I guess it would be a painting, right? So
Okay.
I'm seeing this building, but it's like a holistic building. And I'm seeing, am I on the right track? I'm seeing that on every balcony and everything is like this growing abundance. It's like fruit and
Mhm.
vegetables. And it's like this beautiful top of it. and there's this big light down on it. And it, to me, it represents community who've risen out of the rubble, like the rubble, and risen together to create a structure and a self that's formidable, impenetrable, but it's all about sharing and community and well-being. That's what I'm saying.
Wow. That's incredible. So I totally make sense too with everything that you talked about. So interesting. So building more community and more, I feel like also
Mm.
too, it sounds very holistic with nature,
Yeah, that's a
you
big
know?
part of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's the truth of,
yeah,
people don't even realize what they're walking on day to day. This is a living
I
being.
know. I know.
What?
And I do. I live in the oldest rainforest in the world. I'm off grid.
Wow.
I'm in one of the most beautiful parts of the world.
Wow.
And every day I've got my feet in the earth grounding and connecting to the earth. And it's very important to me because it's sourcing, it's the God self being present in the most beautiful way. And that's how I live my life.
Beautiful. It has been so incredibly real chatting with you today. Please tell us, and we're going to list all of this in the show notes, including NARP, everything, but tell us where people
Yeah.
can find you, how they can connect with you.
Yeah. So well, you can go to melanietoniaevans.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. It's called Quanta Freedom Healing on Instagram. I'm on YouTube under my name. You can definitely look me up. The NARP program, if you go onto my bios or my Facebook, my website, you'll find it. But it's very simple to tap into that. It's melanietoniaevans.com/. N for Nelly, A for Apple, R for Robert, P for Peter. So NARP, and the page will open up and you can read more about it, how it works, why it works. And also too, on my page, you can check out the testimonials, the survivor stories. And yeah, and we'd love to have you. And also to just know as a NARP member, we have an incredible community. You get together with me once a week for your live questions. We also have a forum which have quantum trauma healing experts in there. We've got all the guidance, all the resources, no matter what you're going through, even if you're still with them, if you're trying to co-parent, if you're trying to win court cases, we've got all of the resources, the know-how, the shifts, the guiding, the coaching, the love and the support. You don't have to do this alone. We've worked it all out and there is nothing over the last 20 years that we haven't seen. I promise you. So yeah.
I believe you. Everyone, go do NARP.
Yeah.
It is literally healing the planet, healing yourself. And I just hope everyone is able to take away something from this tremendous quantum conversation we've had today to help them
Been
go
great.
out, face their shit, and heal themselves. And remember, as
Yeah.
always, the truth will set you free. We will see you all next time.
Thank you, Meredith.
If you liked this episode or you think this show would be useful for someone else, the best way you can show your support is to share it on your social media outlets with family and friends or subscribe with the link below to receive exclusive perks. And if you're feeling really generous, please leave a review on podchaser.com, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts, and pick up a signed copy of my book about how I healed myself from endometriosis on my Instagram at Meredith W. Ochoa. Thank you so much for listening and for having the bravery to face your shit and heal yourself.